Good morning, everybody. I'm sorry if I don't sound as wonderful as my friends from Martinique. Karen, your team did a wonderful job, and I learned about foiling this morning, which I knew nothing about. And I'm glad to see it's an Olympic sport. And of all places in the world, it's first going to be done in Paris. So this is all working very nicely for you. So good morning, everybody. Good morning to my head table here, Hugh and Frank. And good morning to the media. Thank you for coming out. Caribbean Week, New York 2018 will be memorable for me for a number of reasons, not least among which is the energy, the electricity, and the exuberance that permeated every aspect of this exciting week, from the meeting room through to the ballroom, where students from 4 tertiary schools battled it out in an unbelievable colloquium. The business of the organization was conducted this year with renewed fervor, effervescence, and vibrancy. At the meeting of ministers, we had the largest turnout we've ever had since I assumed the role of chairman, and I like to think it was because of me. And there was far more active participation in the discussions than I've ever experienced since joining this organization as the Minister of Tourism. One of the key areas discussed is the regional marketing campaign, The Rhythm Never Stops, which together with our private sector partners, the Caribbean Hotel and Tourism Association, we intend to launch at the end of this month. We will continue to pursue a funding mechanism for a sustained marketing program, which is critical to our efforts to maintain and grow market share. Our competitors are light years ahead of us in this regard. Brand USA has an annual budget of $164 million. Australia's budget is $122 million. Canada's $75 million. Yesterday, we had one of the best attended and best marketing conferences we've had in recent times. There was keen interest in the presentation on marijuana by Brian Staffer, the chief strategist of the cannabis consulting company, BSC Group. He gave us much to think about, particularly on the touristic opportunities that will result from medical marijuana. The keynote by Case Bossala, the Vice President of Business Development at Focusrite, on approaching data and technology as a marketing tool was most insightful. He admonished us to place digital at the very center of our marketing strategies and spend, and we must give serious consideration to his recommendation to take another look at baby boomers. The students' colloquium last evening was electric. What a performance by the students of these 4 tertiary institutions from the Cayman Islands, from the Bahamas, from Jamaica, and Monroe College, populated by Caribbean students. Congratulations to Monroe College for yet another victory in what was a high-quality contest, of which 2 of the 4 members was from the Bahamas. The sense of optimism and the enthusiasm on display this week were the result of the level of confidence in the Caribbean tourism industry despite a very difficult post-hurricane period. While the region was galloping along last year at a phenomenal pace that was well over the global average, arrivals took, as you can imagine, a massive hit in the last quarter from Hurricanes Irma and Maria, and even Harvey that impacted the southern United States. The slowdown continued into the first quarter of this year, with figures compiled by the CTO from member countries showing that the region received an estimated 8.2 million international tourist visits during that period, approximately 500,000 fewer than the same period in 2017, or a 6.2% decline. However, some unaffected countries recorded double-digit growth. The Bahamas. The Commonwealth countries group led growth across the sub-regions, with international tourist arrivals up 11.1% by the end of the quarter. Regarding source markets, Canada was the best performing, with a 6.6% increase, while Europe grew by 2.2%. And the signs are that the Caribbean is on the mend, as indicated by the fact that while the numbers decreased in the first quarter, there were improvements, as each month was better than the previous one. In short, more now than ever, we need the impact of a successful marketing campaign, for in the Caribbean, the rhythm never stops. Thank you, and good morning.
Can you tell us anything about packagers, tour operators who are promoting packages to accommodate?
Thank you for the question. Actually, we have a selection of hotels participating in the race. Hotels in Fort-de-France, the capital city where the race is taking place, as well as hotels in Pointe-du-Bout, which is on the other side of the bay, very conveniently joining Fort-de-France through a ferry boat. So in terms of putting together, we have land-only packages, and you can choose to take, as I said earlier, Norwegian, that is, if you're living from New York 4 times a week to the island for under $250 round trip, so you know it makes it easier. So that's the answer I can provide at this time.
Do you need tickets to see the races?
Well, to see the races, you have you can buy like a package of tickets. A package of tickets that allows you access to, yes, exactly. Thank you.
And please identify yourself so we know you are on your media.
Kay Myers, Travel Weekly. I just wondered, are we going to be getting more specific details on the regional marketing campaign during this week with
That's you.
stuff? Dates, money, funding, participants?
Yes, some of that we can talk about now. Yes, we can. So the regional marketing campaign, which the chairman referred to, is themed "The Rhythm Never Stops." It is a public-private sector joint partnership campaign. The CHDA and the Caribbean Hotel and Tourism Association is here, and together we are attempting to launch this campaign at the end of the month. This specific date we will give you as soon as we possibly can. The campaign so far has been contributed to by St. Lucia, the Bahamas, Cayman Islands, Grenada, Trinidad and Tobago, Martinique, and Jamaica. Those are the countries that have so far put their money down to get to a budget that is, at the moment, around $400,000. Now, the reason that I can't be more specific, and the reason that the list which I've just given you is only, we hope, a temporary list, is that we did quite a bit of information sharing with our members during the course of the meetings this week. And it is our hope that some of the commitments which we got at the meetings during this week will help to extend the list of countries and extend the size of the budget. So we're starting the campaign off with $400,000. It's a little more than $400,000, but it is our wish. As you know, reach and frequency have everything in the world to do with the size of the budget. And so the reach will be greater, the frequency will be larger, and of course, the budget hopefully will be greater. And on the private sector side, Frank Comito, do you want to mention the names of some of your participants as well? Frank?
Yeah, we basically have matched dollar for dollar public-private sector so far, and we're in the process of continuing. But we've got several of the major brands involved with us on this. Hilton, Marriott. We have MasterCard as a major sponsor as well, which will be leveraging other media buy into it. And we're working with several other brands and a couple of the airlines as well. So we're anticipating we're looking at this as being a two-phase project, with phase one being a summer campaign. This is all digital and social and the PR component to it. And phase two being a fall, mid-fall, early winter type of campaign.
Thank you. Any other questions? Going once? Going twice? Okay. Frank has a question. No, he just has, no. Before he does, there's a young woman over there. Carol, did 180-degree turn. Sorry, she's all the way back there.
Behind me, sorry.
Good morning. My question is for Mr. Riley. Mary Claire Williams, Barbados Today. I wanted to find out, with the damage caused by the various hurricanes last year to several of our CTO member states, what do you have any update on the state of the islands and the performance of the tourism industry in those territories?
Thank you, Mary Claire. Johnson John Rose wanted to answer that question for you, and I'm sure that Frank Comito wants to as well, because there is a fair amount of detail on the public sector side as well as the private sector side on how the destinations are rebuilding and recovering. They're all at various different stages of recovery, and some are completely back. Turks and Caicos Islands is completely back, and various other countries are at various different stages. So onecaribbean.org is a good place to go, but also if you go to CaribbeanTravel.com, it will lead you to the place where you can find the Caribbean Travel Update, so that you can see exactly how both the destinations and the hotels are doing on their way back. It wouldn't surprise you to know that the pace has been different in terms of the recovery, and there's a direct correlation between that and the availability of funding, and there's a direct correlation between that and the original degree of damage that the countries incurred during hurricanes. Some were hit, one or two were hit by both, as a matter of fact, both Irma and Maria. Is Dominica in the room? If you want specific details, word of mouth, before you leave the room, I'm pretty certain that I saw Colin Piper, who is the Director of Tourism for Discover Dominica. Dominica really took it on the chin, and Colin's here to share information with you, despite what I said about the details being on the website. If St. Martin's in the room, in fact, St. Martin, this is kind of a commercial, but St. Martin will have an event this afternoon where St. Martin will, in fact, both sides of St. Martin will have some very exciting news to share with you, the French and the Dutch. And as you know, they were they had their challenges as well during the hurricanes. The BVI is right here. Here's the minister from the British Virgin Islands. They have quite a story to tell too. So the short answer is that there's a lot of detail available in this room during Caribbean Week, as well as online. I suspect that I missed someone else that I really wanted to have you get in touch with. I don't see. Okay, well, so we're here to help you to give you those details if you need them. Frank wants to add.
You's absolutely right. And the rebound, actually, even though it's going at different levels, we're seeing that it's going at a better pace than we anticipated. And I think, in part, we want to thank the media for what you've done. And I think that bears well with the kind of PR that occurred and the kind of thing that our partners have done by looking at what Travelzoo, they surveyed their U.S. customers back in October, and they said, they asked, will the Caribbean be open for business to accommodate guests in peak winter season? And in October, the response from the consumers was 26% said yes. They asked the same question in January, and the response was 71% saying yes. So collectively, I think CTO, CHTA, the media, getting the real story out there, not the fake stories, that made a huge difference, and we want to continue. CTO released issued a release just last week, I believe, speaking to the geography of the Caribbean, the more you can help us educate the public on what the real geography is. When there's a blizzard in New York, people are laying on the beach in Miami Beach, and so this perception of geography, Miami to Barbados is the same distance as roughly as New York to Miami Beach. We've got to continue to get that kind of messaging out, and we really thank you. We also want to thank our folks who have helped us on CaribbeanTravel.com with issuing lots of positive messaging about the destinations, posting. There's a posting team that's been led by Melanie. Melanie, where's Melanie? I'm sorry. Yeah, right up there. And they've been doing wonderful work getting real stories and real information out there on a regular basis. I know you guys pick it up on a regular basis, and I think you've had a team of Gay and Brian Major and Bob Curley and Ed Wichler. You guys have really helped. So you're our partners in all of this. You've done a wonderful job. First quarter results have been pretty positive on the hotel side. I think I can give you STR's results real quick right now. For the first quarter, occupancy in the region was 71%, down slightly 1.8%. Given the impact of the hurricanes, that's not bad region-wide. ADR was up just 1/10%. So we've been impacted, not as severely as we thought. Double digits for growth for some of a number of areas in the region, and we're encouraged by it. We had our investment conference in May in Miami. We had the largest attendance we've ever had, over 400 folks attending, and very upbeat and bullish about the Caribbean.
Just before we move on to the next question, I wanted to say that there are loads of success stories in the Caribbean, certainly in the first quarter. For example, in the Bahamas, our stopover visitors were up 18%. Jamaica, St. Lucia, Grenada, all have similar success stories. We're definitely benefiting from a vibrant American economy. Unemployment, as you know, in the United States is 3.8%, and people have incomes now. Incomes are rising, and people want to travel. And the nearest, dearest place, of course, is the Caribbean. So we're very bullish and very optimistic about 2018. And obviously, as our brothers and sisters who have been devastated by this storm rebound, we feel wonderfully optimistic that the region will begin to rebound. So I just wanted to say that as well. Question.
We've got, before I come to you, we've got
Brian Major
Brian
from
back there.
Travel Alliance Media. Regional marketing campaign, 28 plus destinations, and you came up with the title, The Rhythm Never Stops. What does that communicate region-wide, and how difficult was it to come to a consensus on what the overall branding should be?
Long ago and far away, when I worked for an advertising agency, the philosophy was that you never ever try to explain your tagline. The rhythm never stops means different things to different people, but I think it communicates, and in all seriousness, when you see the creative, it still is going to communicate different senses to different people. But we are going to use the rhythm never stops in lots of different ways, so it'll have all kinds of meaning to it. And you will see, as an evolution of the campaign, in Bahamas, the rhythm never stops. In Jamaica, the rhythm never stops. In Martinique, the rhythm never stops. In Grenada, the rhythm never stops. And each of the countries depicted will have its own interpretation, its own story about its rhythm and its never stopness. But don't write that. So the entire campaign, though, is intended to benefit the entire region, because as the chairman pointed out, and Frank did as well, the entire region is open for business, and the affected countries are coming back at different rates, but they're back. I think one of the things that we in the Caribbean really have to understand, though, is that we can't always wait for every single I to be dotted and every single T to be crossed before people start to come back. If your hotel, if your property, if your destination was affected by any kind of natural disaster, your first order of business is to make sure that you protect the safety and security of your workers and your people and your guests. But how many times have we gone to some facility somewhere in the world and we've seen a sign saying, "Pardon us while we renovate"? So we've got 100 rooms. These 30 are up and running, and we're protecting the safety and security of everybody in these 30. Pardon us while on the other side of the scaffolding here, we're getting back up to speed with the other 70. And I think we have to accept that as well. So countries and hotels are at various different stages on the way back. But the rest of the Caribbean is as vibrant and as thriving as ever before. And so across the whole region, that rhythm never stops.
Hello? So Karen Rubin again. So let me ask you this, following on, I don't know if this is something you do want to promote, but are there voluntourism opportunities on these islands that are still trying to come out?
Yes, I saw Colin Piper. Could I put the two of you together afterwards? Colin, would you stand for a second, please? That's Colin Piper of Discover Dominica. So there are voluntourism efforts across the region. And thank you for that question, because 30 million people visit the Caribbean every year by air alone, and of course, an enormous number by sea as well. And people develop such an emotional and familial connection with the Caribbean, and they want to come back. You cannot imagine the number of calls and notes that we got from people saying, "How can we help? How can we rebuild? What can we do?" And so there's a tremendous... We heard stories during the week here about our member countries in the region also getting involved in voluntourism. Neighbors helping neighbors. Can we bring 3,000 trees? Can we replant that? Can we help in some way? So voluntourism is alive and well on the consumer side, on the trade side too, the industry side, and certainly from the point of view of neighbors helping neighbors. So Colin's going to have a word to say about that. I'll bet you that BVI can talk about that as well, and others in the room.
We provided back in November and December through our Tourism Cares Caribbean Recovery Fund with CHTA. We provided technical assistance to Puerto Rico and several of the other destinations on how to set up the right kinds of voluntourism types of initiatives, and we have a resource that's available to any of the destinations if they want to go into that area. You have to be careful about how you manage it. It's not just about getting people there. There's a lot of considerations, health, safety, and making sure that it's well managed.
Yes?
Hi.
Yes.
Yes, I have a question. Is there any effort by...
Can you identify yourself and who you work for?
Mike Cifolo with Let's Travel Radio. Thank you for your invitation. Is there any effort on CTO's part to expand its area of influence, particularly in the Western Caribbean? I'm thinking of Mexico, perhaps Costa Rica, maybe Colombia. Has there been any effort to invite them to participate?
There's a tremendous amount of discussion about that, so thank you for the question. I know you know that the Constitution of the Caribbean Tourism Organization does allow us to accept into membership of the organization any country whose shores are washed by the Caribbean Sea. So a number of the countries and territories that you mentioned are eligible for membership in the CTO. The first part of this campaign is restricted to members of the CTO, but there is a discussion about where we go next. So your point is very well taken that there is a possibility here for the strength of the region to make the biggest possible impact that the Caribbean can on the rest of the world. The value of that is not lost on us, but there's been a lot of discussion about where we go next with phase 2 of the Rhythm Never Stops and where we go with future Caribbean marketing campaigns, because these short-term impactful campaigns have their purpose. But to your excellent point, at some stage we have to have a sustainable, longer-term method of keeping the Caribbean brand strong and visible everywhere. And to the extent that unity is strength, the bigger that pot, the more strength we're going to have. Your point is not lost on us. We've had a lot of discussion at a policy level about that.
We have the leads in Guyana, too.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay.
Hi, Dan Peltier from Skift. Is there anything you can say about how or if you're promoting vacation rentals or villas that in a lot of cases were able to bounce back more quickly after the hurricanes or weren't damaged as badly? I don't know if you plan to highlight that in your campaign or what you can say about that sector's role in helping the region recover.
This is usually the part of the discussion where I ask our hotel partners to cover their ears. There is a growing and thriving sharing economy, sharing accommodation component in tourism everywhere, and certainly the Caribbean is an important part of that. So there are more and more people sharing their homes, sharing small properties, more and more villas and gîtes. Is that how's my French going? There are small non-hotel types of accommodations that are popping up everywhere, and yes, there is a certain ease and speed of recovery in that area as well. And yes, there are people who visit the Caribbean who are very close to us and who understand us, who don't necessarily expect every I to be dotted and every T to be crossed before they come and start to enjoy a Caribbean vacation again. So yes, there's a different rate of recovery in some of those accommodations as well. And there are people, we are aware of people, again, Frank, you have to cover your ears again, we're aware of people who have stayed in hotels in the past and who are coming back now and staying in other types of accommodations. So yes, it's growing in the Caribbean.
For the record, we have a number of villas that are members of our organization.
And one interesting takeaway from the presentation yesterday by one of the presenters was that the most downloaded app for accommodations was Airbnb. Not Hilton, not Marriott, but it was Airbnb. So.
I don't need a microphone.
Oh, yes, you do.
Okay,
Because I want to
thank
hear.
you. Guy Britton from Caribbean Journal. And I just had what's being done to work with taxing authorities at the highest level of government to make sure that these resources are benefiting back to the programs that you guys are trying to propel with marketing and safety and security, all these things. What's being done for, I can speak, and I live in Palm Beach County, and they charge a lot of money, and all that money goes back into the bed tax that they get from Airbnb and HomeAway. Otherwise, they don't do business. So I'm just wondering what legislative things are being done.
Well, I can talk specifically to the Bahamas. Presently, vacation homes are not taxed. So this is a new phenomenon, and we're having to grapple with how to deal with it. And in the Bahamas, we have a value-added tax, and we're looking to roll out that value-added tax on accommodations. Obviously, enforcement, if everybody were to buy their vacation home through a portal, it's a fairly straightforward process to tax, but not everybody does that. There are a lot of individuals, there are a lot of persons that act as brokers for vacation homes. So the question is compliance and ensuring that everybody who's in that business pays the tax. So those that use the more traditional methodologies, i.e. the portals, that's a fairly straightforward process. But there are a lot of people that don't, and so one has to figure out. And on top of that, some of the portals come to the governments and say, hey, we want to work with you, and some don't. So if Airbnb, for example, says that they do and another one doesn't, you've got to figure out how to get the compliance.
Okay.
This is for Mr. D'Aguilar. You mentioned the 18% growth for the Bahamas. Do you have any idea about a breakdown of sort of Nassau versus the Out Islands, or how the Out Islands are doing in particular?
Okay, so let me clarify. The 18% is an increase in what we feel is the more important component, which is the airlift component. The vast majority of our foreign visitors come into Nassau and New Providence, and that's where we have experienced, obviously, the greatest number of growth. We've had the coming on stream of the Bahama property with the Grand Hyatt SLS Rosewood, 2,300 plus room property. That has contributed much of that increase. The Family Islands are very vibrant right now. And by Family Islands, for those of you who don't know, the Bahamas is an archipelagic nation. We have 16 different destinations, of which the one most of you know is Nassau, but we have a host of other islands we call the Family Islands. And so they're much smaller destinations, and more boutique, more experiential, more intimate. So as a percentage, it's a much smaller percentage, but they're certainly very robust. People are very interested to go to them, and we're expecting a record number of foreign visitors to those islands in 2018 to peak a record.
Okay, we're going to take another 3 questions because I know you've got to get set for the media marketplace that's happening right after this. So we'll take 3 more questions.
Okay, so
Yes.
you mentioned how surprisingly strong winter bookings were, but over the years, your summer business has been an important growth market. And I'm just curious, since that's getting the publicity of the onset of now the hurricane season, how much of a factor or worry or concern is it for the summer season? I don't know how big it is in terms of your overall market and how significant it would be if that were harmed.
We've done a number of things over the years as a region to really even out those seasonality curves. So I think it's fairly fair to say that gone are the days where the seasonality curves are so sharp that, you know, once the winter business ends, then everything stops. You might know that there have been festivals and events inserted into the non-winter period to make sure that the business continues to thrive and the value is there and so on. Yes, there is a factor of life in some parts of the world called weather events, and we have to pay a lot of attention to that, and heaven knows that we had such a wake-up call last year. But one of the things about hurricanes, if there's ever a good thing about a hurricane, is that it doesn't surprise you. So there is so much advance notification so that people can make adjustments, people can adjust their plans, and we too will adjust our own plan. I think this is probably where your question is going. We will adjust our own plan depending upon what happens during this year's hurricane season. So those of us who are talking about how to structure the campaign and how the campaign should be timed and so on, there's a lot of thought that's gone into the timing of it. And, you know, one of the things that we heard yesterday at the marketing event that we had here during Caribbean Week in New York is the tremendous rise of the purchasing of travel insurance. People are purchasing travel insurance because they want to be sure that if their vacation to the Caribbean or anywhere else, I suppose, is disrupted, they have that insurance. So people are behaving sensibly. They're taking all of these things into consideration. They're not saying, oh, we're not booking or we're not going, but they're taking all of the necessary steps to make this happen. If I could just, did I answer your question? If I could just go back very quickly, John Rose, I think we still have a few seconds, to a question that you asked about recovery. And in this room, there are examples of countries that have been flat on their faces at some point in their history, and they have lived the credo of rebuild and recover and rebuild stronger. And there's a destination in here that I would certainly encourage you to have a word with. You know, in 2004, 90% of the buildings on the island of Grenada were damaged. Today, Grenada is a strong and thriving destination that is as pretty as you can imagine, and you can't go there and think that this was ever hit by a hurricane. So the whole business of getting back on your feet and just rebuilding better and stronger, that's something that we pay a lot of attention to, and we've learned from it. And I'm going to encourage you to have a word with Patricia Marr, who's sitting right over here, and next to her is Dr. Clarice Modeste Kerwin, who's the Minister of Tourism for Grenada. So that is the best example in the room today, but there are others across the region. Others of us have been hit on the chin a few times, and we're back, and we're stronger, and we're better than before. So back to the theme. In the Caribbean, the rhythm never stops.
I don't know why he's done this to me, because at some point we've got to stop. Even if we keep the rhythm going. And to us, rhythm means so much, as the Secretary General says. I mean, it could be just the rhythm of the waves or the leaves in the breeze. It could be the rhythm and the way we speak, because, you know, there's the saying that we tend to sing song a little bit, don't we? So, you know, there could be that rhythm, and it could be the rhythm in the way we dance, and the Secretary General has agreed to dance.
Just not at this press conference.
Just not at this press conference. I did say 3 more questions, but we're quickly running out of time, and we've got the media marketplace. I just want to do one more thing. I didn't alert him to it, but I'm sure he can handle it. The chairman, I said we've got SOTIC, the State of the Tourism Industry Conference in the Bahamas, coming up in October. So I just want to give him a chance to just say a few words and welcome you to the Bahamas come October, Chairman.
So one of the advantages of demitting office is that you get to host the State of the Caribbean Conference in Nassau, October the 1st to the 5th, 2018. So I invite you to come to Nassau. There's a massive transformation underway. I alluded to it earlier. We have a brand new property that has finally come on stream. A few bumps in the road along the way. But it's the Bahama facility, which includes a Grand Hyatt at 1,801 room, an SLS, 299 rooms, and a Rosewood of 237 rooms, I believe. It's a fabulous brand new property. Obviously, Nassau has lots of other properties that are well known, most of which, of course, is Atlantis. So there's lots to see, lots to do. And of course, when you finish with Nassau, or should you ever bore of Nassau, you can get on a lovely boat and go down to the Exuma Keys, which are simply the most beautiful place on the planet, we think, and has the well-known swimming pigs. So we invite you to the Bahamas in October of this year, and we look forward to seeing you all there. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I've got a few things myself. Thank you to the Chairman, the Secretary General, and the CEO of the CHDA, Frank Amato. Let us please just give them a warm applause. And thank you to all of you who came.